My name is Clara, and I've spent the last 6 years of my life building something here. Something I thought would be mine. 6 years in this company, crawling through spreadsheets, surviving late-night conference calls with clients halfway across the globe, and navigating office politics that felt like walking on eggshells every single day. I started as an intern, fresh out of college, wide-eyed and eager to prove myself. And now I'm just another face in the crowd, a senior analyst who knows too much about what goes on behind closed doors but never gets invited inside them. I should have seen it coming, really. The signs were there if you knew where to look. The way my boss, Mr. Grayson, always seemed more interested in hearing updates from the new hires than from people like me who had been around long enough to know how things actually worked. But I didn't see it, not clearly anyway. Not until today. Today was supposed to be my day. My promotion. My corner office with the view of the city skyline. It wasn't official yet, but everyone knew it was happening. Everyone except for her, the new girl. Her name is Natalie, though I doubt anyone will remember it a year from now. She's exactly what corporate America loves these days. Young, polished, ambitious in all the right ways. A blonde bob haircut, tailored blazers, and an air of confidence, so sharp it could cut glass. She joined us 3 months ago, fresh from some big-name firm downtown, and already she's managed to charm half the boardroom without even trying. This morning, I walked into the office feeling lighter than usual. The weekend ahead stretched out before me like a promise, a reward for all those sleepless nights and endless hours spent proving myself. I had coffee in one hand and my phone buzzing in the other, a text from my best friend reminding me to celebrate tonight no matter what happened. "You deserve it," she wrote, and I believed her. For once, I let myself believe her. But then came the meeting. The entire department gathered in the conference room at 9 a.m., which was unusual enough to raise eyebrows. Mr. Grayson stood at the front, his tie perfectly knotted, his smile just shy of genuine. He cleared his throat and began talking about restructuring, about fresh perspectives, and new leadership. Words that sounded harmless on their own, but hit like punches when strung together. By the time he said Natalie's name, I wasn't listening anymore. Or maybe I was listening too hard, because everything else faded away. The murmurs of congratulations, the polite applause, the way Natalie smiled modestly like she hadn't expected any of this. She totally had. All I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. When the meeting ended, I stayed seated while everyone else filed out. Someone patted me on the shoulder. It might have been Jake from accounting, but I didn't turn around. Instead, I stared at the empty chair next to me, the one Natalie had occupied during the announcement. It was still warm. That's when I realized I was shaking. By noon, the news had spread faster than wildfire. Colleagues stopped by my desk to offer awkward condolences or ask questions they already knew the answers to. "Are you okay?" they'd say, their voices tinged with pity. No, I wanted to scream. "No, I'm not okay." But instead, I nodded and forced a smile, pretending I wasn't crumbling inside. Pretending I hadn't spent years chasing a dream that someone else had just snatched away. What made it worse was Natalie herself. She didn't gloat, not openly anyway, but there was something in the way she carried herself now, like she owned the place, like she belonged here more than I ever did. When our paths crossed later that afternoon, she paused beside my desk and gave me this sympathetic little smile. "Clara, right?" she said, as if we hadn't already met multiple times. "I hope this doesn't make things weird between us." Weird. That was the word she chose. Weird. As if my entire career trajectory being derailed could be summed up in such a flimsy adjective. I wanted to laugh or cry, or maybe throw something heavy at her perfectly styled head. Instead, I just nodded again and muttered something about being happy for her. Happy. Right. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I went through the motions, answering emails, attending meetings, pretending to care about deadlines, but my mind kept circling back to the same question. Why? Why her? What had she done in 3 short months that I hadn't done in 6 long years? Was it her connections? Her Ivy League degree? The fact that she looked good in pencil skirts? By the time 5 o'clock rolled around, I was exhausted. Physically, emotionally, mentally drained. Most people were already gone, heading home to start their weekends early. But I lingered, packing up my things slowly, avoiding the inevitable moment when I'd have to leave the office and face the world outside. Finally, I grabbed my coat and headed to the elevator. That's when I saw him. Mr. Grayson was standing near the water cooler, chatting with one of the VPs. They weren't paying attention to me, but I couldn't help overhearing snippets of their conversation. Potential, Mr. Grayson was saying, his voice low but unmistakable. She's got the kind of energy this team needs. Energy. That's what it came down to. Energy. Not experience. Not loyalty. Just energy. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the lobby, my hands trembling slightly. Outside, the city buzzed with its usual Friday evening chaos. Honking cars, hurried footsteps, neon lights flickering to life. I wandered aimlessly for a while, letting the noise drown out my thoughts. Eventually, I found myself in a bar I'd never been to before. It was dimly lit, with mismatched furniture and a jukebox playing soft jazz in the corner. Perfect. I ordered a whiskey sour and took a seat at the far end of the bar, nursing my drink while watching the bartender mix cocktails for other patrons. The alcohol burned going down, but it didn't dull the ache in my chest. If anything, it made it sharper, clearer. Anger bubbled beneath the surface, hot and relentless. Anger at Mr. Grayson, at Natalie, at myself for letting this happen. And then, somewhere between my second and third drink, an idea began to form. It started small, almost imperceptible, like the first crack in a dam. But as I sat there, sipping my cocktail and letting the anger simmer, it grew, expanded, took shape. Revenge. Not the petty, childish kind. Not spreading rumors or sabotaging projects. No, this would be something bigger, something smarter, something that would remind everyone why they hired me in the first place. Something that would show them exactly what they lost when they chose Natalie over me. The plan was still hazy, its edges blurred by whiskey and adrenaline. But I didn't need all the details yet. All I needed was the spark, the determination to fight back. Because Monday was coming, and I intended to be ready. For now, though, I raised my glass to the empty stool beside me, to the future, to whatever came next. The weekend passed in a haze of restless sleep and furious brainstorming. I spent Saturday holed up in my apartment, pacing back and forth like a caged animal, while scraps of ideas swirled in my mind. Sunday was marginally better. I forced myself to take a long walk through the park, hoping the crisp autumn air would clear my head. It didn't. By the time Monday morning rolled around, I felt like I'd been running on pure adrenaline for days. I arrived at the office early, determined to project an aura of calm professionalism despite the storm brewing inside me. The plan wasn't fully formed yet. How could it be? Revenge isn't something you can map out neatly with bullet points and deadlines, but I had the beginnings of one, and that was enough to keep me going. Natalie breezed into the office just after 8:30, looking as polished as ever. She gave me a tentative smile as she passed my desk, but I pretended not to notice. Let her think I'm sulking or bitter or whatever else she wants to believe. Let her underestimate me. That's exactly what I wanted. By mid-morning, Mr. Grayson called another department-wide meeting. This time, though, it wasn't about promotions or restructuring. It was about a new client. A big one. The kind of client that could make or break careers. Apparently, there was some tech startup with deep pockets and even deeper ambitions, and they needed our team to handle their marketing strategy rollout. According to Mr. Grayson, this account had game-changing potential for the company. Translation: whoever landed this deal would be golden. Of course, Natalie was immediately assigned to lead the project. Of course, as everyone filed out of the conference room, I lingered near the door, pretending to check my phone while eavesdropping on Mr. Grayson and Natalie's conversation. They were discussing timelines and deliverables, but then something caught my attention, a name mentioned casually in passing. The CEO of the startup was someone I recognized. Not personally, but professionally. His company had crossed paths with ours years ago during a minor collaboration I'd spearheaded. Back then, he'd been impressed by my work ethic and attention to detail. Impressed enough to exchange business cards and promise to stay in touch. That card was still tucked away in my desk drawer somewhere. Forgotten, maybe, but not useless. When I returned to my desk, I dug through the clutter until I found it. The edges were slightly worn, the ink faded, but the contact information was still legible. My heart raced as I stared at it. This was my opening. My chance to prove that I wasn't just another cog in the machine. That I was capable of delivering results when it mattered most. But how? How could I leverage this connection without tipping off Natalie or Mr. Grayson? If they suspected I was undermining their precious new hire, they'd shut me down before I even got started. No, I needed subtlety, strategy, something that would position me as indispensable without drawing unnecessary attention. An idea began to take shape. Later that afternoon, I sent a carefully worded email to the CEO, reintroducing myself and mentioning the upcoming collaboration between his company and ours. I kept it brief and professional, emphasizing my past experience working with startups and expressing enthusiasm for the opportunity to contribute again. Then I added a subtle hint. While I'm currently focused on supporting our internal team, I'd love to ensure your vision aligns seamlessly with our efforts. Perhaps we could schedule a quick call to discuss priorities. It was risky, borderline audacious, but calculated. I wasn't overstepping. I was offering assistance. And if the CEO agreed to speak with me, I'd have a direct line to influence the project from behind the scenes. To my relief, he responded within the hour. "Clara," his reply read, "great to hear from you. Let's connect tomorrow afternoon." A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Over the next few days, I juggled my regular workload while quietly preparing for the call. I researched the startup's recent press releases, analyzed their market position, and drafted a list of questions designed to showcase both my knowledge and my ability to anticipate their needs. When the day finally arrived, I locked myself in a quiet corner of the office and dialed the number with steady hands. The conversation went better than I'd hoped. The CEO remembered me fondly and seemed genuinely interested in my insights. By the end of the call, he'd agreed to share some additional feedback directly with me. Feedback that could significantly impact the direction of the campaign. Feedback that Natalie wouldn't have access to unless I chose to share it. And oh, how tempting it was to keep it all to myself. But no, that wasn't the point. The goal wasn't to sabotage Natalie, it was to demonstrate my value in a way that couldn't be ignored. To remind everyone why I'd earned my place here in the first place. So I did the unexpected. I scheduled a meeting with Mr. Grayson and presented the CEO's feedback as if it were part of a collaborative effort. I framed it as proactive problem-solving, positioning myself as someone who could navigate challenges and deliver results under pressure. Mr. Grayson listened intently, nodding along as I outlined potential adjustments to the campaign strategy. For the first time in weeks, I saw a flicker of respect in his eyes. Still, I knew I wasn't out of the woods yet. Winning back trust takes more than one impressive presentation. But it was a start, a crack in the armor. Meanwhile, Natalie remained oblivious to my maneuvers. She continued to focus on executing the original plan, blissfully unaware that I was subtly steering the ship from the shadows. Every time she sought approval for a decision, I made sure to offer constructive input that aligned perfectly with the CEO's preferences. Slowly but surely, I began to assert my influence over the project, weaving myself into its fabric in ways that couldn't easily be undone. By the end of the week, tensions within the team were palpable. Natalie grew increasingly frustrated, sensing that something was off, but unable to pinpoint exactly what. Meanwhile, whispers began circulating among my colleagues about my contributions to the campaign. People started seeking me out for advice, trusting my judgment more than hers. Even Jake from accounting stopped by my desk to compliment my strategic thinking. It was intoxicating, really, the feeling of reclaiming control, of proving that I wasn't just replaceable, that I was essential. But as satisfying as it was to watch the tide turn, I couldn't shake the nagging voice in the back of my mind. Was this enough? Would it ever be enough? Or was I destined to remain stuck in this endless cycle of proving myself, only to have someone else swoop in and steal the spotlight? For now, I pushed those thoughts aside. There was still work to do, still battles to fight, still opportunities to seize. And so I raised my metaphorical glass once more, not to celebrate, but to steel myself for whatever came next. As the weeks turned into months, the campaign gained momentum. The adjustments I'd suggested based on the CEO's feedback proved invaluable, helping us navigate tricky negotiations and unexpected challenges. Natalie, though initially resistant to my input, eventually began relying on me more heavily, whether she liked it or not. Her polished confidence started to crack under the pressure, revealing glimpses of insecurity beneath the surface. Meanwhile, my reputation within the company grew stronger with each passing day. One afternoon, as we were finalizing the last details of the campaign, Mr. Grayson called me into his office. My stomach tightened as I walked in, unsure what to expect. He gestured for me to sit, then leaned back in his chair, studying me with an expression that was hard to read. "Clara," he began, folding his hands on the desk, "I need to be honest with you. When we brought Natalie on board and gave her the lead on this project, I thought it was the right move. She had energy, fresh ideas, qualities I believed this team needed." His words stung, but I kept my face neutral, waiting for him to continue. "But," he said, leaning forward slightly, "you've been the backbone of this entire campaign. Your insights, your ability to anticipate problems before they arise. It's clear you have a level of expertise and dedication that can't be overlooked. Frankly, I underestimated you, and I owe you an apology for that." For a moment, I couldn't speak. This wasn't just acknowledgement, it was validation. Everything I'd worked so hard for, everything I'd fought to reclaim, was finally being recognized. "Thank you," I managed to say, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "I appreciate that." He nodded, then added, "The client has expressed their satisfaction with our work, and they specifically mentioned your contributions. They see you as a key player in this success." A warmth spread through my chest, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. "There's one more thing," Mr. Grayson said, his tone softening. "We're restructuring the leadership team for this account, given its long-term potential. I want you to co-lead it alongside Natalie. You'll both report directly to me, and I trust you'll find a way to make it work." Co-leading with Natalie wasn't exactly what I'd envisioned, but it was better than nothing. It was a step toward reclaiming the respect and authority I'd lost. And honestly, after everything I'd done to prove myself, I wasn't about to let anyone, including Natalie, diminish my accomplishments now. I accepted the offer with gratitude, determined to approach the situation professionally. Over the next few weeks, I focused on finding common ground with Natalie. To her credit, she seemed to recognize the shift in dynamics and made an effort to collaborate more openly. Our working relationship improved, though it would never be warm or particularly friendly. Still, we managed to strike a balance that benefited the project and ultimately the company. When the campaign launched, it exceeded all expectations. The client was thrilled, praising not only the results but also the seamless execution. At the celebratory dinner held in honor of the team's success, Mr. Grayson publicly acknowledged my role in turning the project around. As colleagues raised their glasses in toast, I caught Natalie's eye across the room. For once, there was no resentment in her gaze, just a quiet nod of acknowledgement. That night, as I walked home under the glow of streetlights, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. It wasn't perfect. I knew there would always be challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long while, I felt proud of where I stood, proud of how far I'd come. A few months later, another opportunity arose. A senior executive position opened up at a sister company within the corporate umbrella. Mr. Grayson personally recommended me for the role, citing my recent achievements and unwavering commitment. After a rigorous interview process, I received the offer, a promotion, a raise, and a chance to lead a team of my own. Accepting the position meant leaving behind the department where I had spent nearly a decade of my life. But instead of sadness, I felt excitement. This was a new chapter, one I'd earned through resilience, strategy, and sheer determination. On my last day at the office, I packed up my belongings and took one last look around. The space felt different now, lighter, brighter. Natalie stopped by my desk to wish me well, and for the first time, her smile seemed genuine. "You'll do great things," she said simply. "Thanks," I replied, meaning it. "You will too." As I stepped out of the building and into the crisp morning air, I realized something important. Revenge hadn't been the endgame. It had been the catalyst, a spark that reignited my passion and reminded me of my worth. What truly mattered was the growth I had experienced along the way, the lessons I'd learned about perseverance, strategy, and self-belief. And now, standing on the brink of a new beginning, I raised my metaphorical glass one final time, not to vengeance but to second chances, to proving that sometimes the best victories are the ones that leave you stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace whatever comes next. With a deep breath and a smile, I walked toward the future, knowing I was exactly where I belonged.